The draft ranking show is back. I'm Cody Carpentier, joined by my main man, Matty Kiwoom, and we're pivoting. Full pivot. We're done with fantasy football. We did it because it's fantasy football and we kind of had to do it. And, it is what it is. It pays the bills. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And we're doing the full pivot, e-break, into draft season. 2026 NFL draft season begins now for us. Matty's been doing some write-ups over at playerprofiler.com, southharmonff.com. He just dropped an NFL mock draft. Go check that out. Today, though, we're going to be talking through the latest drop from Senior Bowl, the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. They dropped a top 300. They have not done this in the ever since I've covered the Senior Bowl. Dropped a top 300. The Shrine Bowl does like a Shrine Bowl 1000, which is essentially a watch list. This is sort of kind of how I would understand this is kind of being a sort of a watch list, but more so it's a top 300. The way it's classified. And again, the reason we're going to do this, and Matty, I'll give you a second to talk here, but I'm doing my best Alex Dunlap impression where I do an opening monologue of about 7.5 minutes before you get to breathe. The reason we're doing this is because we cover the Senior Bowl. We're going to go down to the Senior Bowl. We're going to be down there in Mobile. We'll be doing shows from there like we normally do, cover the NFL draft. This is a signature event of the year. It's my favorite event of the year is the Senior Bowl. And so they dropped this, and we figured we might as well get through it, talk to some of these players, some of these teams. It's interesting to see the numbers on some of these teams. But the Senior Bowl writes, we decided to trim our watch list from 850 to 300 to raise the bar and truly spotlight the top-tier talent across the country. That is the new Senior Bowl Executive Director, Drew Fabianich. Our staff has been working rigorously to identify the top talents in this year's draft class, and the players on the list have stood out so far. The Senior Bowl top 300 includes 109 players from the SEC, 68 from the Big Ten, and an intention reflection of drafts trends recently. Matty, top 300 Senior Bowl players heading into the 2025 college football season. It's week 1. Click that like button. Click subscribe if you're here on the Draft Ranking Show. We appreciate you for doing it. Matty, how we doing?
Doing great. Just want to say off the top, if you want to get a Warp His Life shirt, southharmonff.com. Big shout out to Alex Dunlap for having me on Roster Watch to talk a little New England Patriots. Also, congratulations to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, who just got engaged. So now that that's out the way, I'm doing good. I'm excited. The juices are flowing. This is week 1 of the college football season, the first true week. I got my big home league draft on Sunday. It's always the best day of the year. Then I'm looking at the calendar. NFL football is just a few days away. So the juices are flowing. Your boy's excited. But over to the Senior Bowl 300. I think this was one of the most genius moves because over the last few years, as you know as well as anyone, the NFL draft apparatus, the machine, the content creation game continues to grow just like all things around football. This will become a list that we all do shows on the second it drops a couple years from now. This will be the list. This will replace the All-American list in terms of the NFL draft coverage. Obviously, All-Americans mean a ton in terms of the accolades, in terms of the player, the stats, the seasons that they had. But guys like you and me, the guys that talk about NFL draft prospects before week 1 even kicks off, we're going to be looking for this list, and this is going to be a big deal for us on a yearly basis. So I think it was completely genius that they dropped it. Make it down to 300. It's rivals 250, 247, top 500. All these things are in this range. Now, this is a premier list that we're going to look forward to every single year.
All right, so we're going to jump into this top 300. We'll be here for a little bit. But the first things first is here's how it was broken down by schools, conferences, everything like this. There was 86 teams included here. Like I said before, 109 from the SEC and 68 from the Big Ten. Dominance by the SEC per usual. ACC just a notch behind the Big Ten with 53. Big 12 behind them with 43. There was 19 Group of 5 players. 5 from the FCS. Total players from the Group of 5 and lower was 24. That's obviously 19 plus 5. The most represented team was LSU with 14. Mind you, LSU also lost 9 players last year's draft. Alabama had 13, Ole Miss 10, Oklahoma 10, and Penn State 10. Those are the 5 teams over the number 10 threshold. There's also 53 underclassmen included in the Senior Bowl top 300. Matty, where do you want to start? What team do you want to start with? What player kind of thought process? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you looked at this top 300 list?
So I thought this list in general was a great list. It was the who's who. You know, we're in the summer scouting stage one scouting phase of NFL draft process, and you know they had all the names, but they missed one. Did you happen to catch it? Like I caught it. It took me a while. I combed through this list because I'm like, is he on here? Oh yeah, he is. Is this guy on here? Oh yeah, he is. There's no way this guy is. Oh, there he is, right there. But they missed one. Did you catch it?
Maybe not.
Pacific Northwest, University of Washington, Denzel Boston is not on this list.
He was in your mock draft in round 1.
He in my mock 1.0, he was my first rounder. He's kind of on that fringe for me. A good season's gonna put him in the back end of round 1 in terms of my grading. I mean, this is a guy who had no quarterback last year, still hauled in 63 catches, over 800 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's big, he's quick, 6'4", 209. He can move, good yak. I think now with the improvements at quarterback, also year 2 of, Fish in Washington, this guy's primed for a 1,200 yard season. And to leave him off the top 300 is just injustice when you got, I understand he may not be wide receiver 1, but he's got to be in everybody's top 3, top 5 at worst. So to miss him with all these other wide receivers, and no disrespect to anyone on this list, but I mean,
45 receivers on here. He was not one of them.
I know. I'm glad you stepped in because I was going to call people out by names. There ain't no need for that. Ain't no need for that. Congratulations to every single one of these kids who made this list. This is definitely a huge accomplishment. But even Denzel Boston off, to me, I could not believe it. I was a little bit shocked. I was shocked considering how thorough this list was.
Looking at wide receiver, there was 4 from LSU: Chris Hilton, Barian Brown, Xavier Thomas, Nick Anderson. 4 from Georgia: Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, Zachariah Branch, and Colby Young. Those are the most represented at the wide receiver position. Good group. When you look at that group by itself, and I see like these are like you bring up obviously Denzel Boston, kind of a snub. Names that kind of pop out to me that like I think of like, all right, this guy needs to have a good year, is the Deion Burkses of the world at Oklahoma. I think he needs to have a big bounce back. I think the situation is right with John Mateer at Oklahoma to do that. With Ben Arbuckle coming in with John Mateer, obviously, to Oklahoma. That's kind of a team. Like I just got done doing my preseason, went through, did the power ratings, got the whole system locked into place. And Oklahoma, I mean, I kind of thought like, man, I've seen a lot of people drop the rankings and stuff. And like when I went through, plugged it all into the system and it populated my ratings out, which I do every year, it had them 15th overall. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be one of these people that has this Oklahoma team top 25. But it just like mathematically, I think more so than anything, this team is fine. They're in a tier, like for my rating system, the tier break is from Florida at 12 with a 0.892 down to Ole Miss with a 0.814. That's how big the gap is between the top 12 and then everybody else after that. And I think Oklahoma fits into that next grouping there. And Deion Burks, I think, is like a Giovanni Gibson's also there at Oklahoma. He did not make this list. Giovanni Gibson's a transfer from Arkansas Pine Bluff, a guy that could potentially be here, in 6 months or in 5 months now when we are talking about going down to Mobile.
He's a perfect candidate to be there. Absolutely.
Exactly. I wouldn't really call him a snub per se when I'm thinking about it from that perspective, but I do think he's a name that could be there soon. Another name I want to just bring up here is Bryce Lance. We've mentioned him, I think, just in passing on a couple other shows, but I'm going to actually get to go see him this Saturday. He's going to be traveling. I live down the street from the Citadel here in Charleston, so I'm going to go over there, easy little walk, and I'll go see what Bryce Lance, the brother of Trey Lance, the top 5 pick in the NFL draft, what Bryce Lance looks like. I guess outside of that at wide receiver, the other USC guy. So who's the other wide receiver at USC? I have Mekhi Lemons on this list, but that wasn't the one that I was consuming some content there. Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane is getting a lot of conversation right now, the junior, number 8 for USC as well. So it's Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. Those are the 2 names that I've kind of been accustomed to in this USC, I guess, realm. Did not see him make the list at all. That's another snub, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he's already getting a little bit of helium, making players to watch lists, making big boards, kind of seeing his name pop up more and more. But that's not what this list is, I guess. This list is not for the names that have popped up in the last month. This is for the guys who are been around. I mean, even Evan Stewart is on this list, and we know Evan Stewart's not playing this year. So they're giving credit to the performance. That's why, the Denzel Boston thing's a bit shocking, but you're right. And also I think that brings up a great point is don't live and die by the list. Make sure you keep exploring all the players. There's a bunch of players out there that didn't make this list that could have big years and could end up in Mobile, in front of a bunch of NFL scouts and coaches trying to prove their worth.
So first off, I just want to take a break here just for 1 second and just let everybody know that this show going forward, I said it at the jump, but this show going forward is going to change a little bit in that it's not going to be fantasy football focused. If you want the fantasy football content, you can go over to our other avenues. Mine, it's going to be Roster Watch. Matty's, it's going to be Player Profiler and South Harmon, and that's where you can get your fantasy football fix. This is going to be strictly a NFL draft focused pod. It's called the Draft Rankings Podcast. You can get it on podcast, anywhere you get podcasts, anywhere you get YouTube, and you can follow it on X. We're going to be posting more and more on there. I'll be honest, Matty, the alpha seasoning thing has gotten the best of my time the last month, and it's really redirected my resources as far as social media and running the Roster Watch account too. It's just like the Draft Rankings Twitter account, I don't think it's had a tweet in a month. That needs to change ASAP. But these shows are going to drop on Monday morning. I know we're recording this right now on Tuesday morning. You're going to probably listen to this on pod on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, but the show's going to be dropping on Mondays, and we're going to be talking all things college football. So if you got any questions, anything like that, any mailbag stuff, drop it in the comments on YouTube, drop it in the comments on Spotify. I don't know if you can do it on Apple. I know you can do it on Spotify now.
You can on Spotify, yeah.
The last one is you can email us at thedraftrankings@gmail.com. Thedraftrankings@gmail.com. Those are your avenues to reach out, get questions into the show, tap in, lock in. Follow me on Twitter at Cody Carpentier. Follow Matty at Matty Kiwoom. And we're just going to keep on dialing in NFL draft. We're going to keep you ahead of the curve. Like not many people can do it this time of the year. All right. Other positions. Quarterback. I wanted to get through this group because when you think about this group in 2025, you see the names everyone talks about, right? Drew Aller, Lenoris Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier. Fernando Mendoza is getting a lot of helium right now at Indiana, transferred from California. Cade Klubnik's on this list. Diego Pavia is an interesting one, right? He's undersized, but it'll be interesting. That feels like a Senior Bowl type of a player. Get him down there in that situation, and the guy will overperform. But one name that kind of pops out to me is a guy that isn't far north of where I'm at. It's Kyron Drones. Kyron Drones is a quarterback that a year ago, there was a lot of, speaking of helium, surrounded around Virginia Tech. And like, is Virginia Tech possibly going to be back? This guy transferred from Baylor 2 years ago. He's got 22 games under his belt at Virginia Tech the last 2 years. Didn't take a step forward. He went from 17 touchdowns, 3 picks his sophomore year at Virginia Tech to 10 touchdowns, 6 picks this last year. Didn't really improve that much as a passer as far as completions and ratings. Very good runner on the ground when he could stay healthy. Last year, that number dipped down below 400. He had over 800 yards rushing the year before. Drones is a guy this year. They lost a ton of talent in Virginia Tech. The expectations are much more in line with like a year ago, it was like, can we win 9 or 10 games? To this year, it's like, hey, man, like all of our talent is gone. All of our talent like went to LSU and Georgia and all these different schools in the transfer portal. And Drones and Bashal Tootin went in the draft. He's now in Jacksonville. And there's, Peebles, the defensive tackle. All these guys are gone except for Drones, who was a cousin of Cam Ward, last year's number 1 overall pick. I have my eye on Kyron Drones. I'd like to go get my eyes on him in person because, again, he's on the East Coast where I'm at, Southeast Coast at Virginia Tech. Drones is one I want to keep my eye on this year. He just had a press conference earlier today. I had a quote from him. I think I lost it here. See if I can pull it back up. Great air when I do that, right? I wanted to, but I lost it. Nonetheless, I just really like Kyron Drones. I don't know if you have a thought on him or if there's anybody else that you kind of had in mind looking at this listed quarterback.
Yeah, so on drones too, because drones, if you play college fantasy football, which some of the sickos do, he was one of the most exciting players to draft. I think it took him, the first couple rounds because of his size, his speed, his talent. Like he was kind of a miniature Sellers, if you will, a little bit squished down version of Sellers heading into last season. And now this year, just there's no fanfare, there's no excitement, for all the reasons that you stated. But the name that I want to talk about. But were you able to find it? Did you find it before I get into my guy? Did you find it?
Yes, the quote was, because he had a press conference earlier today. He said, and I quote, this is Kyron Drones, a quarterback for Virginia Tech. He said, my last two coordinators were offensive linemen. Said having Philip Montgomery, someone who played quarterback and has coached the position for a while, has made a huge difference this offseason. So that's something like
Big.
It doesn't seem big in like,
yeah, it's big.
It's big when you like talk about it and you understand that. But like, why hasn't that been a narrative? Well, because Virginia Tech has stunk, right? And because he's like been underwhelming. And when something's like hot, like he got hot last year. You remember there was training footage a year ago of Cam Ward, Shador, and Drones. And Drones was kind of just like that dude in the background. And now everyone's just kind of like, all right, well, push that guy to the side, right? Because that's just, they didn't quite do anything last year. He wasn't quite healthy a year. And it's like, now got that new offensive coordinator. We've seen what the difference can make in offensive coordinator changes or head coach changes. Like Will Levis had that one good season at Kentucky where it was boom, right? He had Liam Cohen. Then Liam Cohen goes down to, Tampa. And then guess what that does to Baker Mayfield? Now he's in Jacksonville. It's like, all right. So it's like, you just got to, kind of go through these things. Different scenery can change a lot for a quarterback.
Yeah, different scenery, different coaches, changes schemes, changes players. And it's funny, you talk about that video that dropped. If I remember correctly, the narrative, the taglines of that video was like the three saviors of small programs, or not small programs, but resurrecting programs. Colorado, Miami, and Virginia Tech. These were the three guys that were supposed to lead these teams to prominence. And then he's kind of fallen by the wayside. But the quarterback I do want to bring up that was not on this list, who I think could be someone we probably won't see in Mobile in 2026, but I would bet we see him in Mobile in 2027. Aiden Chili's. How do you say it's Childs?
Childs.
From Michigan State, 6'3", 225. Last year, not a lot of production, 2,400 passing yards, 13 touchdowns to 11 picks. But coming from Oregon State, this guy was supposed to have a little bit more juice to his game, and he showed it in flashes last year. And I do see a scenario where if he can get, correct some of his issues, clean some of his technique up, and then also prove that he can use all of his, all the green flags, all the good traits, and has another, adds another 200-300 yards rushing, adds another couple yards, 100 yards passing, looks a little bit better in the touchdown to interception ratio. This guy is going to start building towards some hype. Now, he's only a junior, so he could come out, but I don't think he propels his draft stock high enough to leave Michigan State after 2026. But I do think he gets on the roller coaster on the way up after this season. And then we start hearing a little bit more about him a year from now. And then again, like I said, Mobile, here he comes, 2027.
There we go. I love that. Childs has been a name that's very, very much floated around in a lot of different conversations. Another interesting one. I'll just leave it at this. A couple other ones I kind of almost want to keep an eye on. Haynes King, Georgia Tech.
Good one.
Athlete. Pure athlete. Mark Gronowski. Iowa's consistently had shite at quarterbacks for decades, right? This guy came from South Dakota State, won national championships at South Dakota State. Now he's at Iowa. Not saying I love the guy, but I'm just saying like the idea that they could potentially have a little something in Mark Gronowski is a little tantalizing. He's like about 6'2", 230, 35 pounds, good sized for a quarterback, and he's played a shit ton of football, and he doesn't turn the ball over that much. I think in his career, he's got north of like 80, 85, 90 touchdown passes and never had more than 10 in a single season. Gronowski from, now I changed it, Iowa. Was it South Dakota State the last couple of years?
I love it when I don't see him really having the skill set to be a high-end NFL draft prospect, but I love the story. You love the Doug Flutie storyline coming from a lesser than league to then be hopefully take a team that just has never been able to get over the top in the modern college football era. And now can they just use the triple option, use his legs, his athleticism, use his winning abilities, his winning prowess to win some games, and so in one of the toughest colleges conferences in college football. So I think it's going to be a fun guy, and a guy that if he does make his way to Mobile, you'll have people be like, this guy's the real deal, because he'll show up, he'll say the right things, he'll carry himself well, he's built like a brick shithouse. I think, but I don't know. When I watch some of his tape, it's like this guy looks like a good college quarterback, and we'll leave it there.
Want to go to the defensive side of the ball? You can go offense. You can go whichever direction you want to go next, Matty. But I want to go here just really quick and say that of the LSU players that made it, linebacker, there's two. It's Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins from LSU that made the list. Amongst other schools that have multiple linebackers, A&M has Scooby Williams and Torian York. And I think that was it at linebacker for multiple. And then, so then LSU, who has Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. Interestingly enough, so I do work at orangebloods.com, covering the Longhorns and other SEC schools and stuff alike. Whit Weeks was a stud last year. Anybody that's watched the SEC behind the scenes deal on, I don't even know what, Netflix, it follows Whit and West Weeks, the linebacker brothers at LSU. West transferred in from Virginia. He's a third year. And then Whit is a second year at LSU. He was first team All SEC last year, multiple time defensive player of the week. West, according to the reports, has had the better camp. So both these weeks.
There's a third weeks too. Isn't there a third? Isn't there a freshman weeks now?
Is there?
I thought so. Maybe he's incoming this up next season, but I'm pretty sure. I think he was a freshman in 2025.
Zach Weeks.
Yeah, third weeks. 3 weeks. 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks.
He's a freshman. So Zach, well, he isn't getting much pub right now, but yes. Zach now joins West and Whit Weeks on. I'm pissed off that it could have been www.weeks.com. They could have made a website. All three dubs. Man. They just completely whiffed. Their dad whiffed on that. Zach.
Mama Weeks, what are you doing?
But nonetheless, West and Whit are going to be starting linebackers for LSU. Whit makes the list. He's obviously All-American last year. I think it's interesting that West has, according to reports, been the, in quote, best linebacker for LSU over the course of camp the last month. So we could potentially see brothers down there in Mobile when January comes around.
That'd be fun to see. I mean, that's just the talent of Whit it's apparent. You talk about the his accolades last year, and I think he's poised to repeat it. But I feel, and this is maybe more bro science than anything, but maybe you agree, maybe you don't. Linebacker is a position that gets better with age. You just get more. You get smarter, you get more comfortable, you just start to see things. It's like Brady said as he got older, like you just start getting some of the answers of the test. And you're obviously still young. It's not like he's an older guy at 40 in the NFL. No, he's still 23 years old in college. He's still got his prime ahead of him. So when you get it's like quarterback. When you're more heady, I think those type of positions, and he's not like a pin your ears back pass rushing linebacker. He's an off-ball coverage type linebacker, does it all. So I think he's poised to have a good year. But I want to take this conversation to the big boys. I want to take it to the rumbles, the guys in the trenches, the offensive linemen, because the more I dive in, Cody, the more I'm starting to believe that if this season plays out the way I'm seeing it, the way it's quite frankly being projected, this offensive line class is going to be special. Not just good, it's going to be special. Because you got the three big boys at the top, Proctor, Mwanga, is it how you say it? Mwalaga? I'm going to get these names right. It's tough. It's still only August. I'm going to get these names right. And then my favorite, Spencer Fanu. And then, of course, you have his teammate. All these guys made the list. So I am excited to see this class develop. Jake Slaughter, a center from Florida, nasty. There's a lot of guys that are on this list, but this is where I want to bring the conversation. And this is what I want to bring to your attention because, as you've mentioned, you covered the SEC, mainly Texas. One Texas linemen. Does that make you nervous?
From what perspective?
From the perspective of this team living up to the hype, because I know you cover the team, but you're not a homer in any way in how you cover it. You're also not a Texas fan through your core. You cover the team. So I don't want to ask about fandom. I don't want to talk about expectations. I want to talk about expectations, not your belief. I want to see, are we going to see are we going to start seeing the headlines of Arch Manning being a bust, being overhyped? Are we going to start seeing things like that because this offensive line is not good enough, or are we just not hip to the names yet?
I think I think it's the hip part is that Cam Williams, who played right tackle for Texas last year, had a bit of a rough year, but he declared for the draft, and I'll tie this all together. Just give me about 35 seconds. He declared for the draft because he got note that like he had some, degeneration in his knees. And that potentially if he played another year, if he got hurt, like it could potentially have axed like his potential career, right? So he goes to the Eagles on the cut line, might not make it. He was drafted in the 6th round. But a lot of the conversation was like, this dude should and could come back to Texas, give him $1 million. He can play right tackle. He can tie this offensive line together, being the right tackle. Trevor Gooseby is the name. He's the best offensive lineman on this roster. DJ Campbell made the Senior Bowl top 300 because he's the most veteran offensive lineman in the group, right? And Trevor Gooseby is kind of that next guy in line behind Kelvin Banks to play left tackle. Mind you, Kelvin Banks, the highest graded offensive lineman on PFF in the preseason. No pressures or sacks allowed. Stud.
We knew he was a stud.
Top 10 pick. Trevor Gooseby might get drafted higher than Kelvin Banks. He's got more traits, more athletic, longer, bigger hands, wingspans, massive, feet, massive, can move. Gooseby's a stud. He's got a hand injury right now, but he's going to be playing left tackle. He's the best. I think at the end of the year, if he decides to go, it could be a potential thing where he could go to the Senior Bowl. But I think if he does get to that point, it's more than likely if he's a top 10 projected pick, he's not going to go to Senior Bowl. And if he's not top 10 projected pick, he's going to go back to school. That's the way that's going to unfold. So
that makes sense.
We're not going to see Gooseby down there, period. DJ Campbell's going to play right guard. The right tackle is going to be a true sophomore, Brandon Baker, who was a 5-star out of Santa Ana, out of Mater Dei. The left guard and center situation is kind of the what's up in arms right now with Cole Hudson and Nato Umuzulo. These are names people don't really know much about. Cole Hudson's fine, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to make this list. He's not going to play at the next level. Nato Umuzulo, he's got a little bit of traits to play kind of a situation. This offensive line is good enough by itself just to kind of be tied together and work for this offense. The players that you're going to know as far as the NFL conversation goes are further down the line past Gooseby, past DJ Campbell. It's the Connor Strohs of the world. This guy's 6'7", 340. Andre Kojo got hurt this year. He's 6'6", 320. Like, there's Nick Brooks, true freshman. Guy came in, was going to be the backup left tackle, had to move to right tackle to be the backup because they lost a right tackle. 6'8", 340. There's some monsters coming down the pipeline at Texas. It's just not this year. So Campbell and then potentially Gooseby are really your only 2 NFL targets.
All right. Well, that makes me feel better because I think Texas being good is good for college football this year. I think Arch Manning being good is good for college football.
That is their worst position, though, I would say. Like D tackle,
their unit
was a weak point, and they went out and got 5 guys in the portal. But the offensive line is a cohesive unit, is definitely the weakest unit on the roster.
Well, you mentioned that they're calling it a pass rushing machine, not a player, not a system, a machine, because they have depth, they have versatility, flexibility, athletic ability. They got it all over there. So it's good to know though that they'll keep Manning upright because I don't want to hear that crap.
There was a couple of other players though at the offensive line position I wanted to bring up because you brought up a couple of great ones. Interesting schools, though, that have multiple guys in this list include Oregon. Oregon went out in the portal this year, and speaking of large humans, they got the largest human potentially in Isaiah World. Isaiah World listed at 6'8", 312 pounds, has been at Nevada the last 4 years, started 35 out of 36 games. They also went out and got Emmanuel Pregnon, who Texas did try and get, actually offered him more money than Oregon did, but he went the Oregon route for a couple of reasons. But he's going to be starting guard for Oregon. And then their other player on this list who I have not watched, is Alex Harkey, who I don't really know a lot about, but he came from Texas State. So all 3 guys they've gotten in the portal made this list as well for Oregon. they've kind of taken a position that like they're not known for. They're not known for obviously Penei Sewell and stuff like this, but not known for like an entire offensive line of dominance. And they went out and kind of made that a focal point because, like we talked about with Arch a minute ago, protecting quarterback is key. Dante Moore, I mean, he needs to be protected. They got Mekhi Hughes. They need to run the ball. Evan Stewart's hurt for the year. Like this offense is Oregon's not going to look like Oregon in the last couple of years.
I don't think about Oregon. If World pans out, if Connerly pans out, we might look back to Penei Sewell saying like that was the beginning of the offensive line factory at Oregon. But now they're turning out a couple of guys. It is interesting to see, and this isn't just in the offensive line. This is throughout the whole list. Is the talent that gets filtered up to these programs. You just mentioned Texas State, Nevada, Ohio State is going to be starting a kid from Rice, I believe, at left tackle. I love seeing that these players can go D2, can go FCS, play well, do a good job, develop, and then get the bag, go to the D1 level, become one of these top 300 guys who's going to have hype. I think that that's great for college football, and I think it's great for what we do covering the game because all of a sudden, week 0, do I really want to watch Stanford, Hawaii? Do I really want to watch these schools? Do I really want to watch Kansas? Do I really want to watch? Yeah, because you never know. They might not be the names we are talking about here and now, but when we're talking about actual invitations going out, we want to know these players. We want to have seen these players. And it even gets in more sicko mode when you want to see the North Dakota State. You scouted that quarterback last year. Now you know everything you need to know about the Iowa quarterback. I just like how this is going. I know that they have to reel it in business-wise, ethics-wise, morality-wise, whatever, finance-wise for sure. But I think in terms of the system of college football and the players and the development and as a fan and as someone who, creates content off of the product, I think it's pretty damn cool to see all these transfers be on this list and be recognized without doing it at the utmost level yet.
All right, y'all need to go get this top 300 list over at theseniorbowl.com. We'll continue to reference it, talk about it all year, make shows around it. But the draft ranking show is going to continue to move on week after week after week, recapping, previewing, talking through all the games, all the prospects as we watch them, as they pop up, as they grow through the process, and see if we don't get a Cam Ward. By the way, Matty, did you put a pick in for the number 1 overall pick next year?
I did, and it's just the same approach as last year. Quarterbacks, baby. You gave me the tip on Cam Ward. I took it. Got a whopping $32 on a $2 investment, cleaned up this year.
Let me guess who you put it in on. This is who I put it in on. I'm going to guess you did the same as me.
Okay, let's see. You go, because I got to pull this up right now.
Lenore Sellers.
He's definitely 100%. I got Sellers. I'm pretty sure I covered basically all the quarterbacks that you would think. I think I put some in on Klubnik, on Nussmeier. Of course, you do some of the pass rushers. You kind of take a bigger approach on it. Let me just say, okay, I finally got up. My freaking this is how little I've been betting lately. But yeah, there it is. So I got my longest shot, Dante Moore. At $3,500, a $1 investment for $36, become rich. And then Lenore Sellers, $1 to make $31. Those are my two biggest long shots, my favorites. Not my favorites, but the ones that would be the most exciting to win.
All right. That's where we're starting right there. This is going to be a new segment we're going to do every week where we try to talk about a player in a game and just give you a thought on a game. We're going to give you just one pick this week. Usually, I think we're going to give maybe 2, maybe 3 in any given week. But this week, the show's going to be a little bit shorter. That's how we're going to finish it. One pick for this upcoming weekend. The team's got to cover. You got a player in the game. What's kind of a thought process? I'll give Matty 30 seconds while I lay mine out here. I'm going to go to the SEC. I'm going to go SEC, Alabama versus Florida State. Florida State is 13.5-point home dogs in week 1. Florida State has been out of sight, out of mind to the world since they completely blew up last year and went 13-0 to, I don't even know what they finished, 2-10. I don't even remember. 3-9, 2-10, I think it was.
It was 2. think they got the third win.
Did they get Did they beat Florida Charleston Southern?
I think they got the third win at the end. Yeah.
So they're going to go and they host Alabama this weekend. 3:30 p.m. Saturday, 13.5-point dogs. I think Florida State covers, and I think they make it tight. I think it's way closer than anybody kind of. I mean, I think a lot of people just expect Alabama to probably whitewash them. I think Florida State keeps this thing close. Tommy Castellanos was talking a lot of smack, which doesn't really usually help.
He's a bum, leaving BC like that. What a bum.
But he can ball. He can play some football.
He played good for the Eagles last year.
The player is Squirrel White. 5'10", 170, Tennessee transfer. Last year, 34 receptions, 381, 2 touchdowns. Not big stat lines, not big presence in a lot of games. He only had one game with more than 70 yards. That was against Florida, 5 for 71 piece in that putrid Tennessee offense. But 2 years ago, at Alabama, playing for Tennessee as a sophomore, 10 for 111 and a tug against Alabama. I think they're going to use Squirrel White in a lot of different ways. Roy Dale Williams, another guy that made this top 300 list. Give me Squirrel White and Florida State to cover 13.5 at home against Alabama. And I don't think Ty Simpson's quite going to be dialed in. I think this Alabama team's going to beat them, but I don't think they blitz them. Again, 13.5 at home in Tallahassee. It's a lot to ask for from Alabama, and it is week 1, so I trust Mike Norvell, Florida State, to cover at 13.5.
I thought about that one. That's a good one. I'm going to go a little bit more of an underdog. This is, week 1 has become better and better, right? Over the course of our lives, week 1 used to be more useless than week 0. It would just be Alabama kicking the living dog shit out of the Sister Mary Hood of the Blind. It would be all these teams come up to UMass Dartmouth getting blown out by Florida State. That's what it used to be. But I'm actually going to go that route. I'm going to take the New Mexico Lobos, who go to the Big House and take on the Michigan Wolverines. Not to win. Don't get crazy. To cover. They're getting 35 points, Cody. 35 points.
They scored 35 last year?
I think maybe a handful of times, or one time, maybe 2 at the most. Not a lot. They're not known for scoring. But last year, of course, they had the QB woes. So I understand, yesterday's offense isn't today's offense. But New Mexico, though, they got a new coach. They got a new quarterback. Thing about it, though, Jason Eck and Jack Lane they were together last year at Idaho State. Or is it Idaho State? Idaho. So there's familiarity there. There's continuity there. And there's just no experience on the Michigan side. I know Bryce Underwood he might be HIM. He might be Himothy.com, as you say. But is he going to come out in game 1, number 1 as a starter, 0, didn't hold the clipboard for a half a season, has been at Michigan only for a handful of months. Is he going to come in day 1 and just light up the scoreboard? I don't think so. Not against a team like the Lobos, who have, they're not a big squad by any stretch. You're not picking them to ever again, probably, or have really any interest. Didn't see any Lobos ring on the top 300, I don't believe. So, but in this game, 35 points. Like, listen, Michigan will ragdoll them. Don't get me wrong. Michigan will beat the living piss out of them. But a 24-3, 27-6.
Hey, we'll take 35-3 at this point.
35-3 is an absolute dog walking, but they cover. So I'm taking the Lobos, the New Mexico Lobos, led by Jack Eck and Jack Lane. Jason Eck and Jack Lane. That's how little I've researched New Mexico Lobos, but I think they're covering, baby. I think they're covering. But the player that I am most excited about, other than Bryce Underwood, because, come on. You got to be excited when a talent like that gets the reins day 1 in a program like that. You got to watch. But I want to check out my man Justice Haynes, because to me, he was the back that had the biggest discrepancy from production to what I saw. Because when I watch him on film, I see your dialed in Alabama running back, big, fast, can lay down the absolute bomb. But he only had 400 rushing yards. He did have 7 touchdowns, and they did come in some big spots, but there just wasn't a lot of production. Now he goes over to Michigan. He's going to be the number 1 running back, and he's got the size, 5'11", 210 pounds. He's got the athleticism, and you know that Michigan Wolverines like the hashtag establish the run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see Haynes. I think Haynes is a guy that you don't hear a lot of buzz now, is going to catch some buzz throughout the season because this offense is going to be better. This team is going to be better, and it's going to obviously run through Bryce Underwood, but a lot of the success, I think, is going to come with their ability to run the rock. It always has at Michigan. So I want to see what Justice Hayes does first year, his first game as a Wolverine.
There it is. Week 1, college football. It's here, baby. Lock in, click that like button, click subscribe, turn the bells on. Follow Matty at Matty Kiwoom on X. Follow me at Cody Carpentier on X. Get everything, everywhere, all the time. The Draft Ranking Show. We're back to NFL Draft focused. He's Matty Kiwoom. I'm Cody Carpentier. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.